Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to a little match review, a little talk about Spurs versus Everton yesterday. 2-0 defeat, unfortunately. Well, we're going to probably get straight into I'm going to try the little share screen thing I did last time again. But before we do that, make sure people are in the chat. People can hear me. How is everyone doing? What did everyone think about the game? Because, I think there's a lot of talking points from the game, whether that's, how the chances missed, the overall impact of. I think I'd like to talk about Neil Maupay. And this isn't about to be like a grilling piece on Neil Maupay. I think Maupay is a good player, but I feel like there are aspects of him that need to be discussed in this stream. So we'll wait until everyone's in. Let me make sure I've actually got everything set up correctly as well, because that wouldn't be good, would it? Yep, looks like I do. Right. Yeah, we'll just go straight into screen sharing. I don't see why not. I've confused myself here. Let me do this. There we go. So if I do that, and then I do. There we go. Right, so as you can see, this is the game yesterday. A penalty from Harry Kane, and then a good, well-taken finish from Højbjerg, to be fair. I'm just going to get the stream up on my phone to make sure everything is running okay, and so I can see all the comments. Toffee Blues, since I don't think. There we go. Yeah, so we went into this game, and I didn't really have huge expectations, to be honest with you, going into it. I knew Tottenham were a good team, and I did know that if Tottenham took the lead, they were going to grind it out. They were going to sit there and they were going to, do what Tottenham do. And that's not an insult to Tottenham. It's why Antonio Conte is such a good manager, a game manager, similar in what people are used to from a Mourinho. Owen, it's nice to see you, mate. And we go straight into it early on. Neil Maupay gets a yellow card. That is, Everton trying to press, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see Everton going into a game thinking they can actually do something, trying to get a point. And I think the first half it had positive signs. It really did have positive signs that we may be able to steal something from Spurs at their own ground. But, we go down here and it was a back three, or it looked like it anyway. But it's just, I think to be honest with you, I think it was one of those games, it was for us. It was just one of those where it looked like nothing was going to go our way, every single thing, and I think this, we're going to go straight into this. That is criminal. That is absolutely criminal. 6.2. That's, I thought Pickford was fantastic, to be honest with you. I think people will bring up the penalty, but was it a penalty? Kane was already falling before the contact. He is taking advantage of it. I don't know, Owen. You thought you were poor. I think he made a few really good saves. I think, there was that one good save from the Harry Kane volley. I think he's had better games. Don't get me wrong. I think if we're going up to his standards as of recently, as of towards the end of last season, going into this season, then yeah, you probably are right. But I think still he's still putting a solid goalkeeping performance. I think he dropped one too many balls, maybe, I think he's gonna get slagged off a bit too much for a penalty that I think was controversial and should have at least went to VAR, in my opinion. But we go into the back three. I thought Tarkowski stood out. I thought Tarkowski was fantastic. I don't know about Conor Cody. I don't know how they're the same. I think Tarkowski especially did much more than Conor Cody. That's not me saying Conor Cody was terrible, but there were multiple points in that game, in my opinion, where Tarkowski saved us, whether that were with blocks, big tackles. That may be one of his best games in Everton shirt. It was always going to be tough. All right, Carl, was always going to be a tough run of games. It's criminal missing them chances first half, need a result Wednesday. Yeah, I think you're right, Callum. I think it's a difficult one to say, because going to Tottenham and winning is one of those where I don't think we really expected it, but I think when you watch the game back, you really can think, yeah, maybe we should have stolen a point at least. I think, there were a few incidents in this game where it was just, it didn't seem like it was going to go our way, and the penalty probably being the main one. But yeah, Carl's right. We didn't take our chances. There was the Demarai Gray chance. Demarai Gray had a few chances that arguably he probably should have put away. Same with Onana, but unfortunately, it's been the story of our season so far. And even though we've been a much better team, we haven't been able to put away our chances. And it's, to be honest with you, it's because this man hasn't been playing, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. When he has played, he hasn't been very good. And to be fair to Neil Maupay, we haven't even been able to get him the ball. I can't really slag him off when we're just not getting the ball to our forwards, and we're defending well. I think we're defending fantastically, but having the best defense in the league isn't really. It's like Wolves the other season. It doesn't matter if we've got one of the best defenses in the league if we can't score a goal to save our life. We need to be scoring goals, and I think we've got players in this team to be scoring goals. So I don't know if Frank's going to move to a front two with Maupay and Gray. I know Gordon. I think Gordon probably would have helped a lot in that game. I think his improvements this season have been big, and I know Everton Twitter are on his case today because apparently he asked for 100 grand a week, which, to be honest with you, is ridiculous. But Maupay was getting a lot of stick yesterday, which isn't fair on him. Against Dyer Romero is never going to work. You bang on it, and it's not even just against Dyer Romero. It's the idea that he wasn't even getting enough service in that circumstance. It feels, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that we're still trying to play Calvert-Lewin ball with Neil Maupay and Demarai Gray up front, who, to put it nicely to him, are the biggest of lads. I'm not a big Salomon Rondon fan at all, but if we're going to play that big hoof it up, big man takes it down, plays it wide, then realistically Rondon probably should have played next to Maupay and not Demarai Gray. But it's one of those where I'll have our target man and then Demarai Gray. It's, in my mind, it's the Everton problem now. It's that we can't seem to fit in another system when Calvert-Lewin's injured because of, what about when Calvert-Lewin comes back? When Calvert-Lewin is now constantly injured and constantly in this position where he's not on the pitch enough in a season. And yeah, I think starting Wednesday, hopefully that's where we start seeing back in the starting 11. That's not slight on Maupay. I think Maupay is a good player and I think could even suit well in a front two with Calvert-Lewin. And I think that might be what Frank's going for. But it was a game where to be honest, that first half, as soon as we missed our chances, I thought we were done. As soon as we got into that second half, I was like, we didn't take our chances. Spurs are one of those teams that as soon as they get a lead, they'll suffocate. They'll keep the ball, they'll pass around the midfield, and they'll only really trigger chances when necessary. And they did that in the second half, and unfortunately, we gave them too many opportunities to score goals, and we saw a lot more of an attacking Spurs side than you usually see when they take a lead, and that's just because we gave them so many opportunities to score. And I'm surprised they only ended with 2, to be honest. And I think this was probably the big influence. I'm not trying to slag off for Richarlison, but he didn't really have much of an impact for them. Didn't really do anything. The injury is unfortunate, and hopefully he can make it for the World Cup. But as soon as Bissouma came on, everything changed. As soon as Bissouma was on that pitch, the entire game changed. And I believe I can get first half. I think you can get first half, and I thought you could get like first half and second half stuff. Oh, there you go. You look at the first half and, they've still got higher XG than us, but it's not massively off. It's not a whole big difference. We had a few chances to score, and, that might be a bit misleading of that. But then we were absolutely killed in the second half. We were annihilated in the second half. In the second half, we looked like the Everton of last season. I don't know if that's too far of a statement. Maybe it is, but in the second half, it really felt like that Everton team from last season that a lot of people had no hopes of even surviving. So, it was painful to watch. And I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing. I don't think that is us now slipping up, because it shows here, we're showing that we're defending well. The 8 blocks was 25 clearances more than we should ever having to be making. I know Spurs are a top side and Spurs like to attack, but you'd expect 25 clearances against Liverpool, against Man City. And even though Liverpool are at that level, probably aren't even at the level of Spurs, I'd probably say more Arsenal, Man City. But it's one of those where you look at it and we were just flooded, most of our look. I think this is the prime example. Spurs passed the ball more in our half than they did in their own half. it kind of sums things up, really, doesn't it? You know, we look at the difference, and that's ridiculous. You know, we barely got into them. You know, they did everything to a much better degree we did, and that's the easiest way to explain it. You know, 21 shots to 4. Yeah, the shot, so, you know, 0 shots on target all game. There's no excuse for that. That is criminal. The amount of chances, you know, the amount of that 4 shots is very misleading in my opinion, because I do think, you know, there's the Onana one that really stands out and the Damari Gray one that really stands out. Chances we could have scored. Never mind, you know, just chances that are unlucky we'll get them next time. Chances, 2 of the 4 shots we've taken arguably should have been goals, and it really shows the lack of a potent finisher up front and the lack of someone who can really, you know, take the game by the scruff and score goals. And hopefully that is what Calvert-Lewin will get when he's starting again, and when we're able to play that type of football with a player who suits it. But is that going to happen? Is Calvert-Lewin going to get injured again? I'm hoping anyway that we're going to be to a better standard when Calvert-Lewin comes in. And I feel like Calvert-Lewin, hopefully, you know, touch wood, won't get injured straight away again, but he's been nurtured correctly. He's been brought in. He's been given time to rest. We're slowly nurturing him back into the starting 11, hopefully. And maybe it might be a thing where he's not in the starting 11 until after the World Cup. That might be what it is, because he's got 0 chance of going to the World Cup. So it's one of those where, you know, maybe it is a future of a front two of Maupay and DCL, like Owen says, and I probably agree with that. I think if we want to play this 3-5-2 system, or, you know, then yeah, we need to be playing Maupay and DCL, or are we going to play that 4-3-3? Or it might even be Frank's trying to plan on 2 systems in a game where we can dominate possession. You might see the 4-3-3 come out with Calvert-Lewin, or possibly even Maupay up front, when we're going to be a bit more possession heavy, keep the ball, try to create chances. And then against a team like Spurs, where we need quick counter-attacks, you know, utilising these positions on the pitch, you know, I could probably explain it a little bit more using something like SofaScore, where they give heat maps. But, you know, when we're in these little half spaces here, when we're not in, you know, when we're trying to create space and we're trying to get in this thing, I can understand it, because he probably wanted Graham Maupay to run in behind and get between the Spurs centre-backs, but unfortunately, we weren't able to do that, and we weren't able to give our forwards the service they needed, and unfortunately, when one of them got the service he needed, he wasn't able to take the opportunity. But Spurs are a good side, and in the end, you know, we showed real defensive solidity against the top side, something that is promising. But, you know, you go into our next fixtures before I got talking about the rest of the game and other things. Newcastle away next. You know, I think I can get the full fixtures up here. There's a lot of winnable games in there. There's a lot of winnable games there. I think Crystal Palace is winnable. I think Fulham's winnable. I think Leicester should be winning. Bournemouth have been very good under Gary O'Neill, but I still think it's winnable. Every single game here, I think is winnable until Man City away. I'm not saying we're going to win. I don't particularly think we'll beat Newcastle at their ground. But, you know, realistically, I expect what is there between us and Man City, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 6? 6 Premier League games between us and Man City. I'd say at minimum 10 points, to be completely honest with you. At minimum 10 points. And Owen's right, we do have to keep a calm head. We need to. The players shouldn't get into their own heads, and I think Owen's right, and I think the fans as well. This 2-game losing streak has been against Manchester United and Spurs. Yeah, the performances haven't looked as good against other teams, but that's 2 top sides, 2 sides that are going to be fighting for top 4 this season. So it's one of those where we are probably going to lose games like this, and, you know, it's unfortunate that we did lose at Goodison, but I think, you know, if you look at the league table, you know, if I get that up quickly, we're still in a position where, you know, how many points are we off relegation? They're technically only a point off. But you look at all these teams below us, and you even look at a few of the teams above us. You can look at a lot of these teams and go, yeah, we're better than these teams. You know, you currently look at, you know, Southampton are winning, Aston Villa are losing. You know, I think it's one of those where I think realistically we're probably aiming to be around where between Liverpool and West Ham are in the league this season. And I know some fans are going to want to say, well, we're more ambitious than that. Look at how we've played. But I don't want to watch a few games at the start of the season and immediately assume, you know, like some fans on Twitter have, that we can maybe even be up here. Or maybe specifically here. Maybe to be honest with you, this Everton team could finish anywhere between like 7th and where we are now, 15th, and it wouldn't surprise me. It just depends on the form, depends on the players picking up, depends on the system. I think the one thing is with this Everton side that I will say is there's a lot of potential to nick points. And it's why this season I can see us doing quite well in the cup, maybe reaching a semi-final or final of one of the one of the two cups, because we look like a team that can really frustrate and steal games. And I think that's one thing that Frank's got right with the Everton identity is that, there's a much stronger core, a much bigger willpower. The team looks a lot more willing to fight than it has before. And I think that's a really a positive thing to see. You look at players like that, like Alex Iwobi has been fantastic. This is ridiculous. That needs to be improved. But you look at players like Pickford, Tarkowski. When you look at Everton, if we try to get a ratings one, football rating. Here you go. You look at how many players above a 7 we have. And you have 7 of our consistent starting 11 averaging more than a 7, which is good to see. Alex Iwobi, I don't know if there's a way I can get that up if I come over here and then do that. And then I quickly check. I believe he's probably up there for players in the league when it comes to top rated players. If I go to just Premier League, and while we're quickly talking, if you have anything to say, please put it in the chat. I'll try to read out everything from the chat and try to talk about it. But I think he's probably up there for, one of the highest rated players in the entire league. If I have a little look on here, I'm checking now. Alex Iwobi is Alex Iwobi is he's 32nd. Is that? Oh, wait, it's changed it again, I think. Yeah, he's 32nd. Now, that doesn't sound amazing, but if someone said to you at the start of the season, Alex Iwobi will be one of arguably, and I think 32nd is probably, probably an insult. You look at some of the players above him. I think he's definitely been better than a few of these players above him. And there's players above him, like for example Romeo Lavia, players who haven't played much football. So I think you look at it and you go, well, for players that are consistently starting for their teams, yeah, Alex Iwobi's up there. So I think, there really is that core and there's that team there that can do well. And there is a team there that could, with the right improvements and the right transfers in the future, could probably contend for Europe if someone like Alex Iwobi can continue his form, if Onana continues to improve the way it looks like he is. It looks positive for us. I really do think it does. And I think, it's one of those where we don't want to be assuming that this is now all of a sudden going to be a repeat of last season and that we're going to get to the same lows we were last season. Very harsh on Iwobi being one of the better players in the league. And I think you're right, Owen, but still just to say, top 30 player in the Premier League and someone would go, Calvert-Lewin, Tarkowski, no, Alex Iwobi. You're saying that at the start of the season, you'd have probably taken if I told you Alex Iwobi was like top 70, top 80 player in the Premier League last season. So to instantly jump to probably the upper echelons of midfielders in the league is really impressive. I think, if I sat there and went through everyone who's a consistent starter, I think you'd knock a lot of names off and you'd give him them. But, I want to know what everyone thinks about Lampard because, I've seen some things where it's like, I've seen some weird stuff on Twitter, and I know not to take Twitter for a thingy, but I wonder how's everyone feeling about Lampard as of recently. I think just this season in general, really, actually, not just the Spurs game. What's everyone thought about it? Because I think he's done, a fantastic job. I think, a lot of people are blaming Lampard for the loss, saying that the setup wasn't right. And I don't know. I don't know if I can agree with that, I think a lot of them are saying, it's a weird one because it's Everton Twitter. It's finally starting. I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to not mix my words here because I don't want to come across as I'm against Frank Lampard because I'm not. I think he's absolutely been Lampard for the past week or so has got all this auto stick, which isn't fair. Yeah, I think it's a lot of people have seen how we've played against other teams and seen us go for it and think, we should go for teams like Man United or Spurs. We're nowhere near the level of Man United and Spurs. We're nowhere near the level of the top six. Jamie Redknapp said that he sees the progress Frank's making, and it was to be honest with you, it was a bit of a stupid quote from Jamie Redknapp, because I think every Everton fan under the sun knows we're not near top six. But even I've seen some Everton fans saying we could qualify for Europe, maybe we could fluke into the Conference League, because, to be honest with you, everyone else in the league hasn't been cracking. Bournemouth are in the top half, Fulham are near the top half, so it's one of those where a lot of the teams outside the consensus Big Six, but even saying that, Liverpool have been terrible. A lot of teams this year are struggling. And I think that is because of the fixture list and the fixture congestion. And Owen puts it best, you just want a steady season. That's all we need. This season isn't about, I don't think it's about challenging for anything. It'd be nice if it happens, but this season's about rebounding from last season and going back to being steady and secure and going, getting to March or April and going, no relegation worries, having no worries about relegation. That's what I think this season should be about. And it's like I said, realistically, I think we'll finish between 11th and 14th. Maybe more leaning towards 11th or 12th. And I think there'll probably be some teams with others that we feel like we should finish above. But this season's about steadying the ship and then giving Frank his time to think of a system. Well, not think, I think he's got his system, to get a system underway where he can then sign players for that system to improve the team. And I think that's the way we are going. And maybe we'll do something like that in January. Maybe we'll spend a bit more money in January, bring a few more players in, and then maybe it's a different story. But I don't really see us doing much in January, to be honest. I hope to be wrong. I hope we can bring in some really good players in January and really make a push for Europe, because, I think even with a few players like Bramford and a few of the youth lads, I feel like a run in the Conference League is still something achievable. I think, it's definitely achievable depending on that group, So I think it's one of those where I don't ever see it happening, to be honest. I don't see a world where we get in the top 7, to be honest with you, but it'd be nice. It would be really nice. But yeah, I think, Owen, you're bang on when you say about a steady season, steady progression, improvements from all the players, which is something we've got. Every player has improved this season. I don't think there's a single player that's gone down from last season who's still a consistent part of the starting lineup. So I think it's something where it's a positive sign. And, you look at all of Frank's recruitment, has there realistically been a bad signing? I don't think Dwight McNeil's been fantastic. I would never put him in a category of bad signing. Onana's been fantastic. Tarkowski and Cody have been fantastic, to the point where we're already looking at signing Cody on a permanent in January just because of how impressive he has been. And, I think you look at all the signings we made and they've all done really well. You look at players like Nathan Patterson, who's really stepped up before his injury. You look at players like Anthony Gordon, I believe, what before his suspension, he was starting to make that leap. There was a clear improvement in Anthony's game. And I think, it's been a bit of a weird situation with the whole contract debacle and the whole, him asking for 100 grand a week. But I think that's something that will be sorted. And I think it will probably be ended up lowered to maybe 70 or 80. And I think we'll be at that situation, probably something around those lines. But yeah, I think it's one of those where I think people really shouldn't overreact. I think, I'm not trying to say Frank's, banned from criticism. I'm not crazy. I don't think he doesn't deserve any sort of criticism. I think we can still levy criticism on Frank while being fair, if that makes any sense. I think it's still one of those where we don't want to be that team that just constantly jumps on the manager for absolutely no reason because, well, we've lost a few games, There's a lot of fixture congestion. There's a lot of games to win. There's a lot of times where we'll be able to capitalise on a team that, have played some games in Europe recently or maybe have got, something along those lines. And, I'm quite struggling, just to word it really because it's just so Everton, really, isn't it? To go on a little bit of a losing streak and then to just start slating the manager and to say, well, is this the right choice? Has Frank took us up so far? Yeah, it's a weird one. It is, but I think Frank's been fantastic. I think he's done a wonderful job. To be honest with you, I think it's one of those where we really need to not be, in my opinion, not slagging him off for this. And I think we need to move on, see Sorry, yes, where we are. Would you start James Garner soon? I think it looks like it is leaning towards that, isn't it? I think. Oh, so sorry, drop my phone. I think it is leaning towards Garner being in the starting 11 soon, and I don't know because realistically, who gets dropped? You know, who realistically gets dropped out of that starting lineup for James Garner? And if someone can think of a system that involves James Garner that I'm not thinking of, then yeah, surely if you can think of a system, then I don't see why not go for it. But I don't think there is a system that in where Garner replaces either Iwobi or Onana. Maybe in that 4-3-3. Well, yeah, it'd be Garner who had to go, wouldn't it? Yeah, you're right. And he hasn't been fantastic. And maybe you're right. Onana probably should maybe drop into that deeper role. Or possibly, and then maybe even Garner in that deeper role. But I think I don't know, to be completely honest with you. Is it really a right idea to jump on Garner for a few bad performances? Is he that solidity we need? Is it one of those things that maybe you are right, where Garner comes in for the games against the big teams and then the games where we want to control the ball? Someone like James Garner comes in. If I go something like here and I say, if I just move it around a little bit while I'm talking, I think it's just one of those where it is it one of those where if I share my screen here, how about 4-2-3-1? Gay and Garner holding Onana further up with Iwobi on the wing. I know Iwobi's improved, but I don't want Alex Iwobi on the wing. I'm going to be brutally honest. I do not want Alex Iwobi on the wing. I think the improvements are clear, but I think we found a position that suits him so well that I feel we'd almost be doing him a disservice to play him on the wing. I think he's the one midfielder, in my opinion, who is locked down in his position. Maybe I think a 4-3-3 suits it most because I think Onana further up. I like his box. I think he's more box to box than a number 10. So I just don't think a 4-2-3-1 would suit us. If I can, here we go. If I go to this, then I go to window, bang, bang, and then if I do that, move you over here. So what we can do is, if we say Pickford, this would be ideal, no injuries. Pickford, Parson, Cody, probably Cody on the left, Tarky, Cody. Michael. Oh Jesus, I don't know how to use this. Michael. Sorry if this is a bit of a thing, but then we get here. I think locked on that our best team involves DCL. I think it's kind of locked in that our best team probably has Anthony Gordon in it. And then I'd say I think our best team has. And I'm sorry about the numbers as well, but I'm not changing the numbers. That is too. Let me get the comment back up so I can see what everyone's saying. I think it's one of those. Iwobi does need to stop being put a right back, but I think it's almost like a thing where he's so versatile or can play so many positions. He may not play them all the best, but can play. Oh, sorry, I just didn't mean to do that. That was an accident. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where he can play so many positions that it's just a thing where he can do so much that it's one of those where maybe he should be in a position where he does play. Because I think my question is to everyone is if Garner comes in, does Garner play this holding role here or does Garner play here? That's my question to everyone. I think maybe I think it's leaning towards this. I think probably Garner goes in the holding role because I'd say why is the I not capitalizing? There we go. I think we're in a position where it is that. So what you'd say, Erwin, is go Garner there or Nana there, and is that something like that? What you're thinking? Because I think it's one of those where for my own purpose here, let me just no, I'll leave it right. So is that what you'd say? And then maybe when we're going into a game against a team that is more defensive, like maybe we've got something like this, and then maybe when things get rough and when we're playing that more sit back style, it may be something along the lines of this, and then it looks very weird. So we're going to drop. That is the worst 3-5-2 I've ever seen. Wait a minute. Something more along the lines of let's just say this, like a 3-1-4-2, maybe and then it goes to maybe DCL Morpay, then with Michael. Well, no, I'd not even say that. I'd say probably Gordon here, Patterson here, and then would you say like Onana, Iwobi, and then Garner goes there, and then you have maybe Miko Koditaki. Maybe when Godfrey's back in, then Miko's dropped out and it's Godfrey Koditaki. But right now, I can imagine Frank could go something like that, and then maybe against a bigger team that is something like that, where I think then that does give even room for example, if Gordon cuts in up here, then that gives Miko the chance to come here and maybe even Garner to drop into, or for Garner to drop in between these two or something like that. I think it really gives us more space, I think, to work with, and I think it gives players like Gordon or Iwobi a chance to, Iwobi can run into the 10, Garner can come here, or as I said, Miko can overlap, Gordon can drop a bit, Garner can drop over here to cover, Onana can drop. I think the one thing about that is it does offer a lot of the 3-5-2s if Frank works it correctly, as I'm showing it works a lot. Same works with Onana. Onana could overlap, Patterson could drop here, and it could even, drop into almost like a back four with Garner there, and then Patterson dropping back, Miko dropping back. And it got even looking something like that if we're trying to take a game to a team, That's even what this 4-3-3 could look like. This 4-3-3 could be very similar, if we move back to the 4-3-3 here. That, we think Frankfurt's going to play, so it would be, back to creating this. It'd be if we do the James Garner one anyways, or it'd be Onana there. It would be Garner here. It would be Iwobi here, and then it would be Gordon. I'm guessing it would be Gordon, McNeil, TL. Right, there we go. So we're back to this. And then this even offers a lot more security because Garner can play that holding role. So even if Onana wants to bomb forward, Garner can drop back. He will be showing his ability to defend. So I have seen, maybe even something like that, or maybe Iwobi wants to overlap, can do that. It can drop back into like a 4-4-2 with, I'd probably say you'd want it to be Iwobi there, Gordon there. It can, I feel like the 4-3-3 is a good idea because it can do, so much. And maybe, Frank's hesitant, to play Onana in that 6 right now. He's, offering so much in a box-to-box role. But, even if we want to play narrow, we can have McNeil, Gordon coming in, and then we can have Patterson, Michael, and even something like that, almost like what Chelsea play under Tuchel. So, it offers a lot of versatility, I think, this team. I think, the one thing I will say about this Everton team is it's very versatile. I think a lot of players can switch around positions, Someone mentioned it earlier, Iwobi could easily come on the wing, and then, we could do Gordon, I'd say O'Neill. If I just press 4-3-3 again. But I think someone mentioned a 4-2-3-1. So if we have a look at a 4-2-3-1, Matty mentioned it. So if we get a 4-2-3-1 up here, and we say what you say, he will be on the wing, Gordon on this wing, Onana, Garner. I'm going to put Gay because it's just easier to tell the difference between them then. And then Onana like here. Or would it almost be like a 4-2-3-1 like that, would you say? Almost like a 4-3-3 with 2 defensive midfielders and Onana as the most forward with Iwobi and Gordon on the wing. Because the one thing I will say is if DCL's coming back in, is I would like to have McNeil in with that ability to cross the ball into DCL. I think McNeil is still a very capable crosser. I think he still offers that ability to cross the ball to a point where maybe we should, Matty could say Garner is a deep line playmaker who can tackle. He won't be in arrive late in the box midfielder. He's more creative. So yeah, you'd see someone like Onana making those deeper runs, and you'd see maybe Idrissa Gueye sitting in front of the defence, and then Garner operating in this sort of area of the pitch. As he picks the ball up, maybe sprays it out to Gordon, sprays it out to Iwobi, and then that gives, for example, if Gordon's here, DCL's at the back post waiting for a header, it gives someone like Onana the chance to maybe make that run into the box, while also then giving Iwobi the chance to still lurk around this area of the pitch to maybe go down here and cross. maybe Iwobi becomes more narrow and we see someone like Patterson bomb forward. I think it is the one compliment I will give this Everton team is that it is a lot, and I mean, in my opinion, a lot of room to switch around. And it's, to be honest with you, Matty, I can see why you'd see this as it works so much, because it offers so much rotational ability to switch around. To even this could switch into a back three in game, it could switch to a back five in game, it could, we could play two strikers. Realistically, that would require someone probably having to go off the pitch, but I think with DCL in the lineup, we're really missing McNeil's crossing. And don't get me wrong, James Garner's crossing, his set piece delivery is fantastic. So we may see a point where, for example, even Garner comes here, we want to play a cross, Gordon drops in, that then gives Garner the chance here to maybe play a whipped cross in to the head of Calvert-Lewin. And then, I can see what you mean with Garner more being focused on operating the middle of the pitch with Gay in front of the defenders. The wing-backs could get forward more in a 4-3-1. You are right, yeah. We could see Miko, Patterson, as I said, Onana here. You could see Gordon and Iwobi, cut inside. I think that'd suit Iwobi best, especially being able to dribble in tight spaces. And then you can see what Patterson loves to do, which is just, there's definitely a better website to do this on, but Patterson just constantly bomb back and forth and back and forth, And then, Miko, I feel like, is the more defensive one. So you'd see Miko maybe as Patterson's like here. You'd see Miko being the one who's almost at the halfway line with here. Maybe even, Gordon comes out here or Nana comes here. And then you can't have Miko offering this area. You have it almost drop into basically a back three. And then we still have that ability where if we are, getting bombed back on, Gay can go here, Cody can rush back, Miko can rush back. And then, we've almost got that in a defensive way. And I know that looks very defensive. But then that still offers us a lot of bodies to defend. It still offers us, and then DCL will come back and defend. It offers us a lot of creativity. Maybe you're right, mate. It does. You know what? The more I'm trying to explain it to myself, the more I'm actually starting to like the idea of possibly playing that system. But as I said, I think our system really just depends on the team we play, to be completely honest with you. I think it's one of those where it is really dependent on who's on the pitch, what personnel we have available before we start, saying that this is the system that we should go to. But yeah, Matty, I think, if we want we get this up, I think it's a very good shout. I think it's something that Everton probably should utilise when it comes to that system. I think it's really something we should look at. And, I think we're probably getting into the last stretch of the stream now. So what I think we need to do now is need to start talking about the next game up, which is, I believe, Newcastle away, if I was checking correctly. So if I go back a little bit so I can get this up. Here we go, fixtures. Next, Wednesday the 19th, a trip to St. James's Park on Amazon Prime against a very informed Newcastle side. A very, very informed Newcastle side. A Newcastle side that are going to push this Everton team to their brink. They've been absolutely fantastic. They're unbeaten in 9 home games, but we haven't drawn in any of our 4 matches. If you do remember the game, the last time we played Newcastle was, that game with just so much crazy stuff happening. The bolt cutters, the guy zip tying himself. He will be scoring in like the 90 plus 10th minute, Newcastle Everton's always an exciting game, but it's also a worrying game. We are ranked 17th in goals scored per match, 0.8. We've only scored 4 in our last 5. And, Pickford is ranked 2nd in saves per match. Ironically, I think behind Nick Pope. So I think it's a game that really could require, this system you talk about, Matty, because of the defensive solidity it can have by having Iwobi as a winger or having a hard-working winger who may not be as quick as someone like Damari Gray, but is more willing to get back. I think McNeil plays that role quite well too, but I think there's no way on God's green earth you ever drop Iwobi. But I think there's maybe a good chance for James Garner to get his starting debut for the club. I think he offers that creative outlet, that killer ball from midfield, something that we're really going to need against the Newcastle side that can get caught in behind. Newcastle do, their defensive record's not horrible, but they also aren't adept at conceding goals. They've only kept 1 clean sheet in the past 5 games, and They are also coming off a 5-1 and a 4-1 win. So I really think Everton need to be at their best this game. Newcastle are unfortunately getting to a point where they are looking like a similar position to what a West Ham have been of recent years, to maybe a Leicester, where they've got a fantastic squad. Bruno Guimaraes is, in my opinion, one of the best midfielders in the league. I think players like Miguel Almiron have been on fire. I think, they are in a position where they could really cause trouble for us. And I think the last thing we need to do is go to St. James's Park underestimating them. I think we need to look at this as one of our bigger games coming up, because a win against a massively informed Newcastle that haven't lost, in 9 games at home is a real confidence booster if we can take 3 points at St. James's Park. So I think it's one of those where a win here puts us in a much more comfortable position than, it kind of asserts that, yeah, we won't be in danger this season if we can beat a team as good as Newcastle almost. But I don't know what is everyone in the chat thinking about the Newcastle game. We don't have, and this is bang on, Matty, we don't have many creative players at the moment, so we have to find a place for Garner. He's great at set pieces too. And I think we have missed really that real set piece taker. I think, we really do need that person who can whip in a ball and play that killer delivery that we haven't had for a long time now, in my opinion. We haven't, since James left, we haven't had that player who can really fire in a ball. Like Digne could fire in those really good crosses to Calvert-Lewin, but I remember that season he got 10 or 11 assists in the league or something like that. But since James, we haven't had someone with that killer through ball. I remember that ball to Richarlison at Anfield. We don't have someone, Iwobi's done it, but I don't think we have someone who's been consistently available to do that, possibly besides Iwobi this season. And it's just teams are starting to realise Iwobi now, and Iwobi's starting to get a lot more pressure on him than he was at the start of the season. He's still performing well, but we need someone who can almost be a safety blanket in a sense where Iwobi isn't our only creative option. Garner then frees up Iwobi to do what he does best. And I think it suits much more. And, I wasn't really thinking about the 4-3-1 as an idea, but almost like a 4-3, almost like with Onana as the central midfielder and 2 defensive midfielders behind him, almost like a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 hybrid. I think that would work really well for us. I think I can see us using the back three against Newcastle because they're going to create a lot of chances. We're going to want to sit back, defend, spring on the counter. But yeah, I think going into this game, we really need to be finding the space in behind the Newcastle defence. Other teams have done it. Other teams have exploited the space behind and that Newcastle defence. I think we really need to be to follow that blueprint, and we need to also not get caught doing that, because that's what Newcastle have done so well. When teams have tried to do that to Newcastle have caught them and they've been able to score goals on the counter attack like it's easy. I think the one thing is stopping Bruno Guimaraes. I think if we can stop him, we can kind of suffocate that Newcastle midfield a bit. If we can, have Guimaraes tied down a little bit, I think it's going to be hard, because I do think, I think he could be playing for a top side in the league. I don't. Unfortunately, it's a show of ambition for Newcastle. It's a real show of ambition by Newcastle that they could get a player to that standard. So I think it's one of those where the game plan needs to start with stopping him, and then everything follows after that, in my opinion. But what's everyone's score predictions for Newcastle before we end up here? I think it's going to be. I don't know. I think Frank's going to be desperate to come in and not want to make it 3 losses on the bounce. He doesn't want the heads to drop, and I think we will put in one of our better performances. But I think the atmosphere at St James's Park, and I think how Newcastle's form has been recently, is gonna balance it out, and I think it's gonna end 2-2. Hopefully that it means Calvert-Lewin's first start. Garner plays. We need that if we're going to score goals. But yeah, I think it's going to end 2-2, and I still think that's a fantastic point to take on a team that are, absolutely on fire. And Gangland's right here. Newcastle are playing extremely well. Looking like one of the top sides in the league right now. So I think we can steal something, but I really think it depends on the lineup Frank puts out. To be completely honest with you, I think if we go in with one of these 5 at the backs, no ambition to score, just with a goal to not concede, then it's going to bite us, unfortunately. And I think we need to we need to be smart, but we also do need to take the game to them. You've seen these teams that we don't want to be one of these teams, and we should never, oh no, Newcastle are a different team now, but we should never really be sitting back against Newcastle, and that's no insult to Newcastle, but you should look at some of the players in their team and go, this still isn't. They may turn United over today, and Newcastle have that tail. Yeah, you are right, and Newcastle might turn United over. It really wouldn't surprise me if they do. To be honest, it wouldn't even surprise me if Newcastle end up giving United a beating, to be completely honest with you. But it's one of those where I'm just hoping the passion from the players, hoping Frank gets the line right, and I'm hoping, keyword is hoping, that we can nick something here, and I think we can get a draw against them. And Toffee tops was, I can't see Everton getting 2 goals. I think Toffee really does depend on the line with that Frank things. I think it's time to give James Garner a start, give him a chance. It's time to bring Calvert-Lewin into. Hopefully, Calvert-Lewin's fit enough to start, and then hopefully we can nick something. And hopefully, it's all hopefuls. And unfortunately, a few seasons ago we'd never been saying it's all hopefuls against Newcastle. But Eddie Howe's doing a fantastic job. They've got fantastic players in the squad, and they're in a real rich vein of form right now. So we do have to say things like that. But I do think that's where I'm going to end things off. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like the video. Follow us on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Callum Branham3. And I will see you all for the next live stream or video. See you later, everybody.